So what happens is like every time we do this, we have like these great conversations before we get started. I'm like, man, we really should have been recording that. Really should have been recording that, man. Nice to meet you, man. I know we've been exchanging emails and DMs, but nice to put a face to it.
Do you live here in Milwaukee and you're just out of town now?
Or? So I live in Charlotte now. So I was in Milwaukee the last 7 years.
Nice.
So I started Share the Vibes in Milwaukee, which is why we're still doing the festival there. I moved to Charlotte in October. I was supposed to move here in August. I moved in October, built a house down here. I'm from Georgia. My wife's from Alabama. And the girls getting school late, so we had to get closer to home and get a little bit warmer. So, yeah.
That's dope.
But Milwaukee's still near and dear to the heart for sure.
Yeah, you've been in the trenches, the snowy trenches. So you done had some. Had some of the days.
Absolutely. So Emmitt, man. So Share the Vibes podcast. We on here we interview artists, people in the music business, whatever. We just really is whatever comes to me and 1J's mind. We just kind of reach out and kind of make it happen. So it's really not been a set schedule or anything as of yet. But it's been dope. So my thought was to try to get as many other artists who are performing this year at the festival on. We can talk through you, let the audience get to learn who you are. We'll use it as promotion, but also it's just, I think it's just dope to have these conversations anyhow. So we'll go through, probably get into your background a little bit. We don't really write down too much here. We just kind of go with the flow. So we'll jump into your background, your creative process. We still ain't came up with a name for this segment, but what we like to do is from like your latest project, we'll let you choose about 2 or 3 songs. We'll play a snippet of it. And you talk through just kind of how you came up with that, where you was really recording, any fun facts we should know about it. So we just kind of vibe out.
Yeah.
Anything you definitely want to talk about? Yeah, that was hard. Anything you definitely want to talk about or definitely don't want to talk about?
Nah, we could talk about everything. Unless you know something I don't know.
We ain't got that juice yet.
Nah, not yet. I might have to text Obi on the side or something. But nah, we should be good then. Well, all right then. Well, we'll get started. Like I say, we just kind of go at the vibe and we'll end up where we end up at. Mm-hmm. Boom. Okay. All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Share the Vibes podcast. I am your host, Jink the DJ, founder CEO of Share the Vibes LLC. If you're here, make sure you're following us on Instagram, Share the Vibes LLC. Join the Facebook group. It's Share the Vibes with a bunch of music emojis after it. Just click the link in the description. Everything you need to know is there. The website's there, the podcast, our live radio show on AMP, and everything else we're doing. So glad to have you with us. As always, we have a special guest in the house tonight because every guest is special. But before we get to that, 1J, our co-host, founder, CEO, Audio Moguls Media, which we are a proud member of the Audio Moguls Media Podcast Network. How are you doing, sir?
Man, what's going on with you, dude? What's going on with you, man? For summer's in full effect. Actually, well, summer is technically on the 21st. We're recording this on the 20th, so. But it's been hot. It's been hot here in Milwaukee. So anytime we get 75 plus, I'm going to take it. It's summertime, so. Summertime here in Milwaukee, man. I'm excited, dude. Juneteenth just wrapped up. Had a great time despite, some of the foolishness that happened towards the end, but had a great time, man, and enjoying our 51st Juneteenth celebration. For those that don't know, Milwaukee is the longest running Juneteenth celebratory here in Milwaukee. So, man, we've been doing this for a while. So, but it was dope to just be out there with my people, walking around, having a good time, just seeing folks I haven't seen in a minute, and just really getting in the culture. Freedom Day.
No, that's love, man. And one thing I'm salty about. Now, I was in Milwaukee 7 years, an intern twice, but all that time I never made it to Juneteenth, and I'm salty about that. Granted, usually I was working, it'd be a weekday, but nonetheless, I should have made it out there, and I didn't. So I'm salty about that, but I always heard good things. I know some people who made it out there for the first time yesterday, actually. They said the same thing. It was a vibe, food was good, all that. So kudos to Milwaukee having the celebration going on this long. The rest of the world is catching up now. But Milwaukee's been doing it, as you heard, 51 years. So kudos to that. Well, hey, man, we're going to jump into it, man. So today we're glad and blessed to have in the house with us Mr. Emmitt James. Emmitt, how are you doing?
Yes.
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. I was just listening to what you were saying. I didn't know that Milwaukee had the 51st. This is the 51st year.
Yep.
Summerfest is on their 55th year.
Yep.
So that's how long that Milwaukee's been celebrating. Almost is the same amount of time. So that's dope to know. I didn't know.
Yeah. And then Summerfest, for those that don't know, I think it is still the biggest music festival in the world.
Yeah.
Where it's like hundreds of acts at one time. I think it's bigger than Coachella. I know a lot of people like to put credence on Coachella because of the bigger acts that come there, your Beyoncés and your features. But you have multiple acts, big and acts that are local, come here to Milwaukee and just perform. And man. So Milwaukee, y'all act like Milwaukee ain't no hidden gem. Like we've been out here for a minute, man. People be acting like Milwaukee ain't no like what's there, beer and cheese? Like no, we have more than beer and cheese here. So yeah, though,
absolutely.
Yeah,
people
sure.
always ask, what's in Milwaukee? You know,
right?
People always ask that. Right, that's number one question. Is black people in Milwaukee? All right.
Yes, where you
in abundance. Blackness in abundance,
sure.
Man.
In abundance.
Man, yeah, Summerfest is dope, man. So I remember when I was interning. So my first internship was 10 years ago, 2013. Man, I went to Summerfest. It was like the night going into my birthday, and I saw Nelly. And at that time, I thought it was a big deal. Now, being there, like, ain't 9 years later, I realized Nelly there almost every year. But it was dope to see Nelly. But that was like, that was my 20th birthday. I saw Nelly to kind of bring that in. We walked like, because I ran with Fear, so I know how far that is. Actually, we ran about a solid. We walked about a good 2-3 miles, because we parked down like past Bradford, right before you get up into the hill. Like we parked down that way and walked all the way back to Summerfest. Ooh. And now that I'm like in hindsight that I know the area a little bit better, we definitely could have just Ubered or walked from where we live. We was at 2040 Lost right there. It's the Martin, 20th in Wisconsin. So we definitely could have just walked it. But nonetheless, now Summerfest is dope. And I guess that's a good starting point. Not where I planned to start, but we're going to rock with it. So, Emmitt, you're actually performing at Summerfest this year, if I'm not mistaken. Talk to us about that. Like, how did that come to be? How's that feeling?
That's not true. That's
not true?
I'm just playing.
I am. I'm like, bro, I just saw the post.
I just saw. I'm playing Thursday, January 29th at the BMO Pavilion. It's the same. It's an earlier time, but it's the same stage that Diggable Planets and Cypress Hill is playing later on that night. This was like a last minute thing. So it's funny because Summerfest, I feel like for a lot of DIY acts is, especially if you're from Milwaukee, that's like a top goal to play. Yeah. But I never do the research and put the time into figuring it out. Every time it happened, I just be like, all right, next year But I got an email, and it was because I guess some things got shuffled around, and then they needed an opener for that stage. And it turns out that somebody had suggested me. I was like, yo, you should hit up Emmitt. And then they hit me up, and then I was like, oh, yeah, I'd love to play. So yeah.
Oh wow. So how long is that set? Kind of what's your thought process going into it without giving away all the secrets?
No, the set is an hour long.
Oh.
Okay.
I'm still trying to figure out if I'm going to bring like special guests, because I don't have that much time to figure it out. But I might hit up Jen or somebody to see if they want to do some records we got together. But our set, I'm doing backing tracks, but I'll also bring my homegirl, Jane. She's going to play keys and violin.
Oh,
nice.
Maybe the same person who's going to be playing with me for the Share the Vibes Fest. Okay. I don't know when this is coming out or if I'm supposed to be talking about that. But
oh yeah.
So yeah, what I try to do is when I can do full band, I'll do full band. If not, then I at least try to have some type of live instrumentation. It's just at this point, it's kind of a part of the Emmitt James brand. Yeah. Now I still do shows with just tracks, but when I can, I try to have some type of live instrumentation.
Man, that a live instrumentation for a record is the vibe is just different. It's like I don't. It's like top tier where you get to actually feel the vibrations of the record from the instruments, and I think that's just top tier. So And I think a lot of artists miss that when they don't have that live instrumentation and they just have the track. Like, yeah, it's cool to have the track. You know, some people would still be playing the music, playing their verse under the track, which is, you know, hey, you got to get how you live it, man. That's how you get that breath control, all that being on stage. That's a different animal. But then to do that and have live instrumentation on, so kudos to you, man. I'm super excited for that. And like you said, being on Summerfest is like, you know, what I said earlier, it's the biggest festival. And then what Emmitt said earlier, it's 55 years. Like, that's huge to be on the Summerfest grounds, Summerfest stage. So, yeah, man. Like I said, congratulations to you, man. And I heard that check would be nice, too. I heard that.
It's all right. It's all right.
Nah, man, super happy for you. And you said that's June 29th, so next Thursday, which this may or may not be out by then, but June 29th, you'll be at the BMO Pavilion. And what time is that again?
That's at 2 o'clock. So I'll be
2 o'clock.
2 to 3. Yeah.
Now, the BMO here, that's the one that's right behind the amphitheater, right?
It could be. I just moved back home, so when people be asking me geographical, I'll be like, oh, yeah. But I didn't want to do that, so it could be. I think it is.
It might be.
Unless there's two, it has to be that one. So it's right behind the amphitheater. And, like, I know a lot of people, that's their favorite venue in Milwaukee. I've seen a few. I saw Charlie Wilson out there. Frankie Beverly and Mays was out there a few years back.
That's what I'm thinking of too. Okay.
I feel like I saw somebody else over there.
I remember.
I want to say the Roots was out there too. I think the Roots was out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's some dope acts that come through that BMO Harris Pavilion. I just kudos to you for being on that stage and being on that stage within that stage of Summerfest. So that's definitely hats off to you. That's super dope. I wish I could be there to see that, but I know you're going to do your thing. So kudos to you. Make sure y'all go out to Summerfest June 29th and check out Emmitt James and get you a teaser for Share the Vibes Fest, which we're going to come back to in a little bit. But nonetheless, let's get into you, man. So for the audience and those listeners who may not be familiar with you, just tell a little bit about who Emmitt James is.
So 34 years ago. No,
storyteller.
I'm originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, born and raised here. But I spent the last 8 years in LA. I just moved back in like January.
Okay, so we just missed each other.
So yeah, I just moved back in January. And before music, it was basketball.
Okay.
I was going to the NBA. No, I was going to go to Duke first.
Okay.
And I was going to, maybe get fourth round pick.
Yeah.
Told to the NBA. And I'm not saying that because I was good like that. That was my plans. I was a decent shooter, but I didn't have a left hand, so I knew I wasn't.
What position?
Going to go that far. But so it was basketball, and then it turned into spoken word. That's how I got started. Okay. I'm not sure if you guys know who Dasha Kelly is.
No.
She's like the queen of poetry out here in Milwaukee. She's done a lot of work with the middle school and high school poetry scene. At one point, she was the Milwaukee Poet Laureate and Wisconsin Poet Laureate, at the same time.
Nice.
But so yeah, I got my start into spoken word through Poetry Slam, through an organization she had called Stillwater's Collective.
I know Stillwater's. Okay, so that was her organization.
That was hers.
Dope. Okay.
So I started off doing spoken word, and then that kind of spilled over into music, and then from there I just never stopped, and I just kept doing it. So
that's
a brief
what's up.
synopsis.
So
yeah.
Basketball to spoken word to music. So how long ago was the spoken word piece, and then when did the music piece start?
So spoken word, I wrote my very first poem when I was in high school. So I went to Reagan High School. And this is my friend. We're still friends, but I had the crush on this girl named Tamara Lynn DeLees. She was this super fine Puerto Rican girl in my class. And I wrote my first poem about her, and then my first 9 poems about her.
Oh, wow.
And then she wasn't feeling me like that, but she had a boyfriend. But it's funny because she took my poems and put them in a binder.
Okay.
Still have them, the poems that I wrote So started doing that, and then I started doing spoken word. I found out about Stillwater's Collective because they were doing high school slam league.
Okay.
So like there was Reagan, there was King, High School of the Arts, there was Washington, and so all these different high schools had a team, and then throughout the school year you would compete, and then at the end of the school year, 4 high schools, the top 4 high schools would compete. And Milwaukee High School of the Arts would always win. So yeah, that's how. So like from high school. So when was high school? 2007 to 2011 was all through our high school. So that's how I got started. And then the very first project I ever made was a mix of spoken word and music. It was called Broke But Not Broken. And it's terrible. The poetry is pretty good, but the music is terrible.
Now, when was that?
I was my junior year in high school.
Okay, so like
So
09,
probably 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we graduated about the same time, 2011 too. So okay.
You graduated from here?
No, I'm from Georgia, Fitzgerald, Georgia,
Okay.
Fitzgerald High School.
Oh, okay.
You're
My
like,
question
okay.
is with the poetry for the slam, how were the schools being judged on the poetry? Because I remember, poetry slams back in the day, but I never attended one. So how was it like judged? Was it just like your bars, your phrases, your like how was it? Was it the motion? How was it judged?
So the cool thing about poetry slams is that there is like a system and rules and stuff. And I think the very first poetry slam, at least documented, was some guy, I forget his name. It started in Chicago.
Okay.
But the way that poetry slam works is the judges are randomly selected. So you pick 5 random people from the audience. You try to find people who are not super close to the poets or who gonna, not be biased and call it down the middle as much as they can. And then it's 5 poets. You usually drop the highest and the lowest score to get an average. And then depending on what slams you go to, some people tell you, hey, you can't score anybody lower than a 5.
Okay.
Because they want to, kind of pacify people's feelings a little bit. But I've been to some slams where you can give 0 through 10.
Sensitive. Don't we know 0 now.
So that's how they score it. And then before they do it, they have a thing called a sacrificial poet. So there's a poet that goes and they're like, quote unquote, the sacrifice. And they get scored, but it doesn't count towards the slam. It's just to get the judges warmed up.
Got you.
So if we were judges and then we did our own scores, and let's say we all gave the sacrificial poet a 9, that's to show you like, okay, to be consistent, like, hey, if I gave this a 9, anything better than this should be a 10.
Yeah.
Anything not as good as this will probably be lower. It's to help you.
Gauge. Okay, where you need to be.
Yeah. And then there's usually 2 rounds, 3 minutes and 30 seconds. After that, you start getting points docked if you go over the 30-second grace period. And then the first round, some slams, they'll add the scores together to get the winner, but a lot of slams do it independently. So whatever you got your first round, if you make it to the second round, that's the pass now. Now you got to get the highest score in the second round to win.
Now, are these are done on the spot, or these you bring your best? It's like I'm thinking of it like the slam dunk contest, right? You got your dunkers, you got I can't even think of nobody's name right now, but you got your dunkers, and they bring out their dunks, and most of them probably already practice it, but they perform those dunks ahead of time. Or is it like categories like, okay, this round is going to be the haiku round?
Oh no, you just got 3 minutes 30 seconds to do your thing. Has to be original. Oh, also, no, you can't use any props. Some slams, what they do, which I think is funny, is they'll give you a word, and then they'll ask a word from the crowd, and then in the first slam, if you incorporate that word in your poem, you'll get an extra point.
Got you.
So that's like the freestyle ability or on the spot ability. But these poems, you've been at home practicing, rehearsing, making sure you got everything down. So
I can see it throwing somebody out too.
Yeah, so there isn't a rubric like, okay, we're gonna give you points for alliteration, give you points for your cadence.
No, it's just what you like as a judge.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it. Now that's tough. That's tough. 'Cause
Yeah.
if you're getting random judges and they don't know you, and you just got to be passionate about your work and your art, man, that's tough, dude.
And you get different people. Some people really know poetry, and then you'll get some nights where some people just like they score what they like, but they not really like in the scene, so they might not know what is good. But that's the cool thing about it is that somebody who's not the best poet there could win.
Yeah.
Or like if I'm doing a poem, or three people went before me and they did all sad poems, and they scored well, I might be like, all right, let me pull out a sad poem because it's going well. Now my strategy is normally to like mess that up.
Got you.
All right, now I'm about to do something super funny, just to like break up you want to have strategies when you're going in, and like the one annoying thing that used to happen a lot was, for some reason, people would like cry and like do these very sad poems because they would score high. Now, granted, this was their story and they're being honest, but it was just like there was a point where it was just like, this seems like a formula.
Right.
People just, all right, they're about to start crying right now.
One word.
And then, but yeah, no, it's
dope.
super fun. That's how that was like my whole like high school career. One of my favorite parts about being in high school.
Oh, wow. Now, are you still doing poetry today?
I do, not as much as music. So my girlfriend, she's a spoken word artist and filmmaker as well.
Okay.
So we got a couple group pieces together, or like sometimes we'll produce our own show, and then she'll get up and do some stuff, and we'll do it together. But I usually don't do it that much these days, unless what is that? Unless
You're a poet. You just made it
You
up.
can do that.
At 5 points, you scored a 5.
Unless someone asks me to do it, like, hey, I got this poetry open mic, will you be the feature? Then I'll know that they're looking for a spoken word. Or if like I'm going to an open mic and I want to do some spoken word, I'll do it. But I do music way more than spoken word. But the people who know me, they know that like he used to be the man, or one of those guys back in the day.
I wonder if you were active when so like I said, I was interning in 2013. I just remember like one night, it had to be like July, because towards the end of the summer, I went to some club. I assumed it to be a poetry club. It might not have been, and maybe they're just doing poetry that night. I want to say it was maybe like a Wednesday, and they had this poetry night going on. But I've been trying to remember the name of the place for 10 years, and I cannot remember it. But it was such a vibe. Like I always said, I wanted to find it when I was actually living there and go back. I remember like it was a light-skinned dude from Chicago came up. I want to say he might have had locks or like some like kind of loose hanging braids or something. I just remember like he had this line. He was like, "Yeah, they like, yo, shorty, what's up? I'm how you doing, grown man? When I greet you." It was like real smooth. It always stuck with me, but I can't remember that place. But there's some big like popular poetry spots around summer 2013 that did that type of thing.
Summer 2013, was I around? Oh, I was, but not really. So I went to college in UW Stevens Point. Okay. So I was still in Wisconsin, but I was right? Yeah, I was in college at this time. So I spent a lot of my time in Stevens Point. So I don't know if I remember the spots then.
Yeah.
But there's a poetry scene still here. It's different now. Different people are running it and thriving, but they got like staples here still, or like events that happen every week and stuff like that. But
did you body it in Stevens Point? Because I know that's a different area.
No, yeah, it's different. There's people in Stevens Point who've never like seen black people before in real life. So
absolutely believe
I remember my roommate the first night in the room, we were just talking, laying in bed, and he was like, "You're from Milwaukee, right?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You ever been like in a drive-by?" And I was like, hold on.
I believe it.
We're not doing this. But no, Stephen, it was dope. I collaborated with a lot of people out there, and it was very small town. So like 26,000 people, but 10,000 of them go to the school. So it's kind of like a school town.
Yeah.
But it was cool. But when I first got there, I linked into the spoken word and ended up collaborating with the dance majors.
Oh, dope.
And like did like made poems on the spot to like their movements and stuff like that. And then started leaning more into the music as well too. So
that's what's up. Yeah. So let's talk about that transition into the music. So basketball, spoken word poetry, and at some point you shifted over into music, and that's been what you've stuck with for some time now. So what was that transition like into music?
I would say it was pretty seamless, because like I was already good at like words and storytelling. I think because I was a solid poet, you get to hear that in the music. And as time went on, I've become a stronger storyteller, even just down to the way I title projects. Like I'm really, really into titles, and I want people when they hear the title to be like, interesting. So like I had this EP called Cornbread, Collard Greens, and Backshots.
Oh yeah, I need to hear that one.
So like you're just like, wait, what? What's going on here? And so that's what I tried to do with the poems a lot. So I had this poem called, the first line was the name of the poem, and I like being dramatic for dramatic effect for purpose. I'll go up to the mic, my hands, act like I'm about to do this really deep poem, and then like, last night I made love to a Mexican, and then people are just like, yo, wait, hold on, what's going on? To get people's attention, then the first few lines are like some kind of super sexual lines, and then you get to the middle of the poem, it's like, oh, this is a poem about immigration. But I do all this other stuff to like get people's attention.
It's a great hook.
So,
It's a great
but
hook.
yeah, the transition was seamless. I always wanted to rap, and then poetry was just like the gateway to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great foundation because, like you said, even with the latest project, which we're going to get into, now I'm seeing the title, thinking about it, like, okay, I see what you did now. That makes sense. And then even from listening to the sequencing of the album, I know I'm getting a little techie right now, but I can tell, like, you are a great storyteller.
Yeah.
Like, just listening to the record, like I said, I don't want to get into it yet because I know we're going to still learn a little bit more about you, but now everything is clicking and making sense because you got it. Like you got it. But I made love last night. I made love to a Mexican.
That's hard.
This one of my, like if I was somewhere just out, not prepared to go up, and somebody's like, "Oh, Emmitt here, go do something."
Yeah.
That's probably like one I would just like one I just got memorized that I kind of never forgot. I could be a little rusty sometimes if I haven't done it in a while, but I'll remember most of it enough to be able to maneuver through the rest.
Yeah.
So
that's hard.
That's dope.
That's hard. Oh man. So how did you get started in music then? So a seamless transition. So how did you get started? What was the process? All that good stuff.
So I did Broke But Not Broken. It was the project I was rapping over like industry beats, Kanye beats, or I don't know if y'all remember the dude Johnny Giuliano. Or there was this thing called SoundClick.
Yes, I remember SoundClick.
So producers would put stuff on there, and there was this guy named Johnny Giuliano. He had a lot of those beats on there. And my music teacher from high school, he saw that we took Jen and I went to the same school for a year. Okay. So he went to Reagan for a little bit, and our music teacher saw that like we was really into music, so he showed us how to use Mixcraft. It's like an older audio program.
Oh yeah.
And then they built like a little studio for us after school. And then we were there for so much, like after school, that he had to make hours. He was like, all right, y'all can only be here for 2 hours. Because we would just stay there. School out at 2:33, we there till like 7:38. Just recording. Like we was in a group that Jen started called Mixtape Mafia. It was like a group he had started at a different school. Then when he came to this school, he kind of like, he kept it going. And so that's how I started. But my first real, quote unquote, real project was when I went to Stevens Point and I made this project called Are You Listening Yet?
Okay.
And that was when I started to pay for like studio time, mixing. So that's why I counted as my first real project. I was recording with, I don't know if y'all remember Pizzle.
Yes. Yep.
So I was recording with him. So I was taking it seriously for the first time because at school we got to do it for free. We was kind of learning on the spot. But this time I'm like, paying Pizzle to record, paying him to mix it, putting my money actually into it. Yeah.
That it's a telltale when you know that somebody really loves the art is when they get lost in it. Like you saying, music teachers are like, hey, look, y'all hear too much. Like y'all gotta go. I think that is a real telltale of like somebody really loving the craft where you forget to eat. And I'm assuming you probably did at times.
No, yeah, sometimes I do.
You forgot to eat, you get to eat because you so like I want to get this verse done, I want to get this record done. Like we caught a vibe.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could see it in you. I can see it in you. I can tell it's in you. It's just in you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you know, but 1J produces and creates music as well. So, you know, podcasts
I
and
didn't know
teaches.
that.
But that's always good to hear other. This is the favorite part of like just listening to other artists.
Yeah.
And be kind of like, because I was the same way in high school. When I took band in freshman year, and then my second year I went to Riverside. My second year, I was in band again, but then I wasn't trying to be up and doing this all day. I wasn't feeling that. Yeah. And then they took me from the trumpet to the cornet, and it was bigger. I wasn't messing with that, so I decided to go to piano.
The cornet?
Yeah, it's like it's a trumpet, but it's like a big old horn in it. So it's kind of weird. It's like a weird instrument. I didn't want to do it. That's why I said it's a cornet.
That was my first time I ever heard that.
Yeah, it's like a trumpet's cousin or something. Okay. Yeah. You know, the one that nobody want at the fan reunion. that's the cornet. But so when I got to piano class, same thing. Miss Walker was same way. I would skip lunch to make sure I like finished the books of the piano classes, and then like she'd be like, "All right, you gotta go." But I somehow finessed my my guidance teacher and was like, "Can I take piano again?" She's like, "You took it for like 3 years. You can't take it." And she's like, "Just go ahead, just take it." Because I didn't want to do art. I wasn't a draw. I didn't know how to draw.
Yeah.
So, but when it came to music, I was like, yeah. So it's like interesting to hear that like it's in you because you would miss your basic functions to make sure, you know what I'm saying, like this music is good. So that's dope. That's dope. Yeah.
It's a blessing to find your passions, man.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Especially young too.
Yeah.
Young when you can kind of experiment, make mistakes, or I don't even want to call them mistakes. Like you just trying stuff and like, oh, this don't make sense. Like I'm not gonna do this again. So yeah, that's dope, man. That's real dope. So you said what was the first project that you like said you took serious?
Yeah, it was called Are You Listening?
Are You Listening?
So I made that my freshman year in college.
Okay. How was that? Now, how was that process of recording? And then did you put it out right away? Did you say, "This is my baby, I don't want nobody to hear it"?
Oh no, I put it out right away. I was coming to Milwaukee on the weekends when I could, recording with Pizzle, and then I put it out. And then I eventually did like this is my first time ever playing live with instruments. I did a show on campus for like an album release type show, and it was dope.
It was dope.
Yeah,
it was dope. So did you have that? Did that stage presence come natural, or did it come natural from doing poetry?
I think doing poetry helped a lot. Doing poetry, and just speaking and being in front of people. So I've always spoke and was in front of people a lot. So when I was younger. This don't come up often, but when I was younger, I was heavily into church. Like my mom is a pastor; she's still a pastor. I was a youth pastor.
Okay.
So I'm used to standing and speaking in front of people. So what was it? My 8th grade year, I got licensed as a minister, and then when I was turned 16, I was a sophomore in high school. I was a youth pastor. So I got used to speaking in front of people, and then at that same time, I was doing spoken word and stuff like that. When I look at old videos, I'm like a way better performer now, but where I was at that time, I think I did. I was on the right track. So,
yeah.
Like if I look at it now, I'll be like, this is trash. But but I'm able to, like one of my friends, she found a CD that I had from high school. And she sent it to me, and there was probably only one song on there. I was like, "This is okay." Everything else is pretty, terrible. But no, yeah. So I was used to just standing in front of people and performing or speaking. So I was that kind of comes pretty natural.
So that's so funny, dude. Like I just met him today, and like I'm a licensed minister too.
Nice.
I got licensed in 2019, right before the pandemic. That's crazy.
Yeah, I was sitting here like, there's a lot of parallels right here.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
So you just want to beat me?
You know what I'm saying? So you got this remarkable record over here. I mean, album over here. Like, yeah, hey, look. So you did a live performance. Like, what was next after that? Like, what was the thing? Like, how was the reaction from it? Like, the people were feeling it. People weren't feeling it. How was it? How was it received?
From that show? No, it was good. So on campus, there was an organization that threw shows.
Okay.
And I was trying to get booked by them, but they kind of wasn't like, they wasn't ignoring me, but it was just like, oh, some freshman here wants to play. So I put on my own show with the help of one of the directors of the diversity and access, they call it, at campus. And so he booked the room for me, so I wouldn't have to pay for it. And then I remember him asking me, like, how many people you think are going to show up? And I was like, yo, if 50 people showed up to this thing, this would be success. The room held like 262 people, and all the seats were filled.
Nice.
Wow, that's
So,
nice.
and then one of the student bookers had saw that, and then they started to book me to open up for the bigger acts they would have come to the school. So that was cool.
What
But
did
that was my first time playing with the band, and I think from there I just enjoyed it. What were you about to say, though?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, how much of your success for it? No, not, and I don't want to say success because we also define success differently, but I'm gonna call it success. How much of your success or your longevity, your consistency, would you say you attribute to that moment? Because I just imagine that had to be like one of those things you never forget. That your first performance, you walk out and the room is filled, and it's like, what in the world?
Yeah. No, I think so. I would just make the connection right now, like just speaking from the band perspective, because we had baby grand piano, guitar, bass, drums, and then I did another show like that after for another project, and I think it was a lot of instruments and it was too much, but no, yeah, I would say it was very helpful. But I was used to like putting stuff together and it going well, like. Because in high school I was, a youth pastor, like I put together like a revival that went pretty good, or at least one of the nights. The first night was kind of slow, second night was medium, and then the third night was like I was shocked that hundreds of people were there.
Yeah.
My friend, she is Hmong, and she went to this Hmong church, and so like half of it is like Hmong people on this side, and the other side was like all black people. So like I had experience in like doing stuff. I think the very first time I did something and it went well, and then I realized, I could kind of do whatever I want, and it happened was I threw an event in my mom's backyard, and it was just like probably like an open mic or something, and I was in high school, and a decent amount of people came, and I think in that moment I was like, if I want to do something, now that doesn't mean every show is going to be uber successful, and depends on what you define as success. To me, it's not just attendance. That's a part of the success, but like was the quality of the performance and stuff helps determine success for me. But I remember that moment in the backyard. I was like, all right, I could do whatever you put your mind to. It sounds kind of corny, but or cheesy. But at that moment, I had that realization. So, yeah.
Now,
That's dope.
Now I know you're part of House of Renji. We've mentioned Jen's name, Genesis Renji. Started House of Renji. You all celebrating 10 years this year, so congrats on that, by the way. Jen, if you're listening, congrats to you. So you mentioned Mixtape Mafia. This was like a group y'all had back in the day. Now, was that the inception of House of Renji? Is that how it got started, or did that come later?
I won't say it was the inception of the House of Renji as it is today, but I think that was the natural progression, because I think Jen is just like all of us, but him from the beginning has been like a leader, and so like he's always been the person to just have foresight. Like even when we was in high school, he'll be like, all right, I got this album coming out, and then like he'll have 10 albums planned ahead of time. This is the name it's gonna be. This is when they're gonna come out. And so like before he came to Reagan, the high school we went to, he was at another school, and he started Mixtape Mafia at that school. If I'm not mistaken, he needed to put a group together for like a talent show, and so he got some friends together, and they needed a name. So this is the name. And then when he came to Reagan, we continued it, and then I even had like a spin-off poetry. Like if Mixtape Mafia was a label, I had this group called Homesick for Heaven. That was like the poetry section. Then we had
hard.
Right, Homesick for Heaven. That's tight.
That might be the name of the episode.
Then we had another spin-off group, all under Mixtape Mafia, but was like another sector. It was called Dons and Donnas, or D&D. Okay. And so I think for him that helped him. But how you probably know House of Renji got started was Jen, Obi, and Jaya. They kind of came together, and he told them, hey, this is what I want to do. And they was like, okay, cool, we want to help you. And so, but before that moment, he had experience with, being over quote unquote other artists and leading them and having a vision of a team. So it wasn't the same people from high school, but I think he already had that experience in doing that. So, and then I joined in 2016.
Okay.
So, and like that's been my brother since since we met. So, he started the label, and then I think I can't remember what year they started it. If it's so 2013, I came on like a couple years later, and I've just been a part of it ever since. So,
no, that's dope, man. That's dope. Now you said earlier, you spent the last 8 years or so in LA. So I think literally as you was coming to Milwaukee, as you were leaving Milwaukee, I was probably coming, and then when you came back, I was coming to Charlotte. But LA is just a different scene altogether from entertainment, not even just music, but entertainment. Maybe what are some of the parallels or the experience of being in Milwaukee, getting your start, getting your foundation there, going to LA, getting immersed in that scene, continuing to develop your craft and kind of being in that network? What's that experience like? What were your learnings there?
From being in LA or am I comparing them to one another?
Both. Let's see where we end up at.
So it's funny because even though I was from Milwaukee, this is my first time now that I'm back being an adult artist in Milwaukee. So like it was different because when I became an adult and I could go to bars or something like that, I was in Stevens Point.
Okay.
And I wasn't coming down here that much to like do shows or anything. So I've always had this outsider relationship with Milwaukee's music scene because I think people knew me and respected me, but it was like, oh, he live in LA. He not like really here active. So I'm glad to be back here. But LA is a really cool place. I think that if I could do it all over again, right after high school, I would have just moved to LA because it's just a dope place. And in my last 2 years there, it showed me that you could do music for a living. Like I quit my job like almost 3 years ago, and I've been doing music full time since then on a very independent level. But it got kind of crazy there in the last year because, a couple times, I was ready to go on Indeed.com. My girl and I, we was traveling so much, we was just like touring and stuff. It was like, it don't make sense to not be in LA but pay LA rent.
Yeah.
So we decided to move back. But there's the vibe there, the energy. I like big city vibes and just like this energy of places to go, people to see. I just like that vibe. But when I moved back here, one thing that I learned is, I'm not sure if it's always was this way, but there's a lot of dope stuff happening here in the theater space, in the music space, in the supporting Black artists mindset. So like there's more stuff going on here than I thought there was going to be, and I don't see like a shortage of it. So again, I have an outsider perspective. You talk to somebody who's more active, you get different opinions. You get the there aren't that many opportunities here. Like, oh, I tried, and if that's someone's reality, I get it, I understand. But coming from LA, I'm looking at stuff differently, and I'm just like, I've been able to do certain things here and get to them quicker because it's not that many people trying to do it or get access to it, or whatever I'm trying to get access to in LA, there will be a bunch of it. But here, let's just say like there's 3 people you got to know. All right, cool. I just need to figure out those people, as opposed to in LA, there's 30 people. Yeah. And but one thing I'll say, I don't know if y'all know Curtis Crump Jr. He's a super dope.
He's on a record. He's on an album though, right?
Yeah. He plays, his main instrument is sax, but he plays keys, a little bit of drums.
Okay.
When I play in LA, he's usually the MD for the band. But I asked him, because he moved from Racine to LA, and he's been out there for a few years. And I said, you think there's more talented people in LA than Milwaukee? And he was like, nah. I think the talent is there. He said it's just more talent in LA. But he doesn't think one is more talented than the other. Yeah. And I think that I agree with that. There's just so much more competition out there. But you come here, there's a lot of dope people doing stuff, but you can get stuff happening here. So like, for example, I've never said this out loud yet, so I want to make sure I say it the right way, but I've been here since like January, March. I got out my place. In January, I was still floating around, but January to now, I played the back room. I was able to get, along with other people on the bill, was able to bring in 150 plus people, playing Summerfest, and I'm doing some other cool things that I'm getting sponsorships for, all in 6 months.
Yeah.
And in LA, it's like it's just tougher to do it. So I think sometimes we should stop sleeping on smaller cities, smaller big cities, because Milwaukee's a small big city.
Definitely is.
So and you can, it's just easier. Rent is cheaper. It's just I don't know if I answered the question, but I tried.
I'm curious because LA, you got when I think of LA, I think of artists that have gone to LA and stayed. Like I just saw like Business Boy like here randomly. Like is that Business Boy? He's just here. Yeah. And I just saw him pitch I just saw that too. Yeah, so he was at the new restaurant, The Trade, and I'm like, that's Business Boy, and we know Business Boy, he's killing it out there. But like, I'm thinking, what are some things, you may have already said this, but I'm just curious, more specific things. What are some things that you did in LA that you're doing here in Milwaukee? Like, for instance, I'm thinking in LA, you get a lot of writers' rooms, like writing camps, where it's like a whole bunch of people, you get an Airbnb, you do the thing here. Is that something that is done here that we just don't know about? Or is that something that has not been done here in Milwaukee and that's something that we could do? Like, what have you done in LA that people, and and if you got the sauce and you don't want to tell the sauce, I understand. But yeah, I'm just curious because they do things a little bit differently over there. But can we take that, transform it here over Milwaukee?
Yeah. So in LA, I haven't done a lot of writing camps and writing workshops or stuff like that, but I got friends and people who've worked on the album who do that. But I'll give you one example. So this album that I just put out, I wanted to do something different. A music critic had gave me some advice, and I had took it or interpreted it the way I at least interpreted it. And I got a house in the Desert Hot Springs. It's like 2 hours from LA. And we rented this big house, and we worked on the album for 3 days. So almost half the album was made at that house. And so we locked in. I flew out my homie, I don't know if y'all know Marty, Freakish Nerd, DJ, photographer here. I flew him out to document it, and then the other homies in LA, they came up. I told them, like, all you got to do is worry about getting there. Food, coffee, I'm going to take care of all that. Shout out to the government because I also had food stamp. Anyways, so I took care of that, and then my homie Sam, who's from here, he went to King. He's a dope drummer and art or a music teacher, and he was like, when he was there and we were talking about it, he was like, man, he got inspired for a while because he said when he went back to Milwaukee, he was like, this is one thing I want to take back to Milwaukee. Like, I don't think there's a bunch of like jam sessions or like people just getting together. So like, I guess people could do that more. One thing, an idea I had that I never did in LA that I want to do here is like do these artist bonfires where we like get around a fire and just talk about different things or like our successes or just ideas and collaborate with each other or like just help each other out. I think that's something that could be done more. One thing that's been sticking with me, that's been in my spirit. Somebody said to me, and it stuck with me, and they said, Milwaukee's too small to be competing with itself. So like we should be collaborating and working with each other. And so I think that's true. Like, yeah, we can't afford to compete with ourselves. We should be coming together. Now that doesn't mean everybody is gonna like each other or work together or everybody should work together, but there should be more of a collaborative spirit here. And there is, but I think it could even happen even more.
Yeah, if everybody put their bread together and create something incredible, people will. I always say this. I say Milwaukee. I compare Milwaukee to Atlanta because of all the black people here, but I've always said Milwaukee could be like an Atlanta in the next 5-10 years easily, because of just the talent that we have here. All we need to do is have the media that we need to come here, and that's why I'm trying to do what I'm doing, my little small part. But if we can get the media, the black media, to come here and really create that talent agency, like I was in a meeting somewhere, and somebody asked like, "Where's a good talent agency here in Milwaukee?" It was like, "You got to go somewhere else because there's no talent, really a talent agency here in Milwaukee, especially for a black artist or a black personality, right? So if we can get that here and create that hub, just like Atlanta did, I think we'd be golden.
Yeah.
I think we'd be golden.
Yeah, there's power in community, man. You know, that's the whole thing about Share the Vibes. It's bringing people together through music and technology. That's the whole reason I do this. So when you talk about like we should have jam sessions and just talk. We should, we shouldn't be competing with each other. Granted, competition is healthy, but it should be healthy competition. It shouldn't be no spiting, your hand to save my leg or something. Like it should be. Right. We make each other better, but we're still together at the end of the day. That's what Share the Vibes is all about. And I completely agree with that because, like I say, coming up from Georgia, outside of looking in, and not even just the music scene. If I look at like the Greek scene, the business scene, like I was like, man, and like there's this level of competition here. It's like 5 chapters. What are we doing? Like we came together. Like there could be some real power here. So it's I definitely agree with that, and it's dope to hear you say that, and I know that resonated with you more and Jacob. We've had plenty of these conversations where we talk about that same thing. It's like you go to Atlanta, you meet somebody you never heard of before on the radio, but everybody down there knows it because it's the community of it. So now,
right down the street,
community, community breeds commerce. Is what I would call it. So that's dope. That's dope. So man, I'm really enjoying the conversation, but we got to definitely move this along. So. Man, you got the project, we got the tour coming up. So let's do the tour, and we're gonna let that kind of segue us into the project. So the tour coming up. Tell us about the tour you got going on.
Oh yeah, I'm calling it the Ugby Summer Tour. So mostly the stuff is in Wisconsin, but we got the Summerfest, we got the Share the Vibes Fest. Last weekend I did Juneteenth in Stevens Point. They had a celebration, and then June 24th, I'm doing the 32nd annual Energy Fair in Custer, Wisconsin. So it's like a 2-day festival. Vendors, they're talking about, sustainable, how to be sustainable and clean energy and stuff like that. And then they have a live music portion. So I'll be bringing a full band to that. And then going back to LA in July as well. Right after LA, I'm coming back for Share the Vibes. But in LA, play live band out there. And then I got some stuff in Indianapolis in August. And then the last day of the tour, I haven't talked much about this publicly, but I'm doing this show called the Emmitt James 10-Year Big Band Barbecue. So we're celebrating my 10-year mark in music. But I've also collaborated with organizations like Zilber Family Foundation, NPS Foundation, because not only are we celebrating my 10-year in music, but also the fact that NPS success stories are real and they are happening, and I am one of them. So this is the most ambitious event I've ever attempted to produce. The budget is $11,000.
Okay.
And so, the budget kept growing, and then so we started connecting it to like this NPS cause, and the goal now is to underwrite the whole cost so that the event can be free for attendees. So I don't even have to sell tickets and try to make money back. I'll be playing with a 13-piece band. There's going to be barbecue there from Daddy's Soul Food and Grill.
Okay. Good barbecue.
It's just going to be a pretty dope event. I've been working on this since March behind the scenes. First time trying to get sponsors. And now I see things differently through a whole different lens. Now I'm like, next time I tour, what if I got people to sponsor? Even if they didn't give me money, but if Amtrak was like, yo, here's $200 in tickets or, whatever. So like I'm just trying to think about to start adding that to what I am doing. But that's the tour.
Dope. Now there was the all right. Barbecue is what I got. 10-year Big Bang Barbecue.
Yes, the Emmitt James 10-Year Big Bang Barbecue.
There we go. Now where's this going to be? Do you know yet?
Yeah, it's gonna be at Third Space Brewing. Their outside area. It could probably hold like 200 people. And the reason why I'm doing it is because how some artists would be like, it's been 25 years since I put out my first album, and I always think that stuff is dope, but I think independent artists should celebrate those milestones too. Yeah. And while I was thinking about it, I thought about this last year, and I looked up. I was like, I put out my first real project June 2012, freshman year of college, and I was like, oh, this is my 10 years this year. but I didn't really have time to plan it like I wanted to. So
Right.
I'm doing it this year with this event.
No, that's hard, man. Cause when you said it, I just LaRussell at the what's it called? Starts with a P. What's he calling the joint?
Oh, his backyard.
Yeah, that's
Backyard joint.
I think he got a word for us.
Yeah.
I forgot, but nonetheless, when you said like this big band barbecue, that's just what came to my head. Like, and it just seemed like a vibe. But nonetheless, no, that's gonna be hard, man. So you say it's the UGB tour, and I connected the dots as I was listening to your project, the new album. Is it an album or a mixtape? I know people sensitive about that.
Oh no, this is an album. But even if I wasn't saying that, album project.
Okay. Cool.
At this point, they all go on streaming.
Exactly.
platforms, so,
Exactly.
So mixtapes to me don't really exist no more.
Yeah.
It definitely sounds like an album, but yeah, so the new album, that's what we're gonna call it, Undeniably, Groundbreakingly Excellent. A fitting name, might I say. But yeah, talk to us, man. How did this come to be?
Yes.
I think you already told us you spent like 3 days in the house on your Kanye's tip, putting this together. So man, talk to us about the new album, and then we're gonna get into some of the vibes on it.
Yeah. So when I was in LA, I was a barista for a minute, and one of my homies, his girlfriend was a publicist, or is, I don't know if she still is, a publicist at XL Recordings. It's like a smaller label, but like still kind of like a poppin' label. And when I was working on my last album, Avery, I was sending her demos, and she was like, "Do you mind if I send it to my friend who's a music critic? He can give you some, some industry feedback." And I was like, "Yeah." So I sent it to him, and then she sent me his feedback, and he had quoted a line from one of the songs on the album. And because the line in the song said, "I'm at the point I know I'm good at this." So he quoted that, and he was like, "Yes, you are good at this. Now be undeniably, groundbreakingly excellent." And I just loved how that sounded. And I was like, this is going to be the name of a project. I don't know when.
Yep.
That was May 2019. I still got that email.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to do something different. I said, okay, I want to like super lock in, work on the project. I would have convos with friends, and they was like, yo, your marketing and stuff is dope. And then I would get in debate with friends who was like, yo, don't you think that if the music is that good, people will just gravitate to it? And like, I agree and disagree with that, because you have marketing and all this other type of stuff you can do to help bring attention to it. But I kept those things in mind, and I was like, you know what? I just want to lock in. And the album, half of it was made there. And we just made skeletons there at the house, and then we continued to polish it. But I think it's definitely my best work, because we just put more attention, time, and care to the production of it.
Yeah.
And then one of my homies, Cam, who's a dope artist from here who lives in Atlanta now, he was like, when you put out stuff, it's always been good. But to him, he said you had reached a point where you were just staying so consistent that like I was not being impressed anymore. It's like, oh, this is another Emmitt, and it's dope. But he was like, I listened to this, and he was like, nah, this is something else. And so I hope that to continually push it, and then people can, whether if you heard my stuff before, you have those same feelings he have, or if you've never heard me before and this is your first impression, then I think it's a really good impression.
No, it definitely is. So I was listening to it because I started it not too long ago. I think shortly after we talked, I said, I need to listen to some of his stuff because I heard you were dope, and I trusted those people. But I wanted to hear it myself. So I ran the full project actually while I was cooking today. So I was listening, and it was dope. And I got to the end. I was like, hold on, wait, but I gotta go back to the beginning. Cause I hear the loop now. So let me go back and make sure I'm connecting the dots here the right way. But man, this is dope, and this is probably one of, if not like the best concept albums I've heard from an artist that's not like mainstream. Everybody knows about. Just even the quality of the production. And, when you talk about you started paying for mixing and mastering way back when, and this time like you locked in on the production and the quality, like all that comes through. Like this sounds like something that's legit that could be major label. Absolutely. So congrats to you on an undeniably groundbreakingly excellent project. This is dope, man. Yeah, Moan-J, I like to let you nerd out on this stuff, man. So yeah, go ahead and run these ratings up.
So for me, I think when I listened to the project, first thing I was like, the skit. You don't see skits anymore. You rarely hear skits. So talk a little bit about the skits. Like, how did that process come about? who was like, hey, did you have a whiteboard in the room? Was like, all right, we're gonna say this, we're gonna do this. Like, how did that go?
So my homie CJ, he's the guy that plays like the laboratory dude.
Yeah.
He also mixed and mastered this project.
Okay.
And he did all the sound designs for the skits and stuff. He's also the singer on Jacker James and the singer on Grateful. Just a super dope dude. His bag is more so singer songwriter stuff, but he got a nice R&B bag. But yeah, he mixed and mastered it. So I had the title for a while, and we were trying to think of a story to develop around it. And so like we landed on a couple ideas, and then eventually this is the one that stuck. And it was like, what if you had to save the world? And at first it was all serious, and we was like, oh, would it be more funny if it was not that dramatic? So like at the end you get the whole, oh, I was just kidding, I was just trying to make you so it's like, what?
Come out your bag.
Yeah.
And so and then an important part is also the cover of the album. It's an oil painting by my friend Hector Acuna. He's a really dope oil painter, and he did a bunch of different sketches, and then this is the one that I stuck with. And then so that's why you have my head breaking through the ground. But yeah, we just want to do something. I do a lot of skits on a lot of projects, so to help bring. And I just realized that after this project that I kind of do it a lot. So I wonder if people sometimes are like, "All right, we get it, you do skits," but like I just love skits, and I love making the visuals that go with them. So this story, the story of the skits on this album, there's a trailer that goes with it as well. So the first part is out. I haven't put out the second part yet, but yeah, I think telling stories is really cool.
Dope. And if I can get a little technical, so how did you record this? What program, what tools did you use? Because I like to take all the artists that we've interviewed and see if there's a some type of connection of all the tools that they use. Like our last artist, I forgot what she said she used. But I just know her studio was in her room.
She does it all herself.
Yeah, she did it all herself.
Her name is Argentina?
No, she's from Argentina. Okay. And she's a dope artist.
Yeah, her name is Maria Soul. You should check her out.
Maria Soul.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And her producer name was Lucas, I believe.
Yep.
But I'm just curious, like, what are you using Pro Tools? I mean, Fruity Loops? Like, what are you?
I recorded this all in the bathroom.
Really?
No, I'm just playing.
So I'm like, I'm like, I had no echo at all.
Yeah. A lot of it was recorded at their house, but then we had to retrack. So I did a lot of it at CJ's house. Okay. When I was living in LA, he lived like not too far from me. And then some of it I recorded. Because I record myself too, but I wanted the quality to be as best as it could, and I get solid quality via myself. And right before this album, I was learning how to mix and master, but I didn't want to do that with this project because I needed the music to live up to the name of what I needed it to be, and he's a way better mixer than me. So yeah, at the house, his house, some at my house, but most of it is recorded with his microphone. Maybe 2 or 3 songs is recorded elsewhere, but he did all the mixing and mastering for the most part. There's 2 songs. Will Rap for Rent was recorded with the producer, but CJ still mastered it, and then Elon James was recorded at my house, and then the producers mixed it, and then they sent it back to me so I could send it to CJ to master it. So we wanted it to be consistent as possible.
Right.
And so some songs aren't because of just where we were when we were recording them, but for the most part, it's, even though sonically it's kind of all over the place, like we wanted to still be as consistent as and cohesive as possible, even though sonically it's not all one sound.
Yeah. Well, and I think with that skit, the Supernatural Aid skit kind of like explained that, because when I heard the skit, he was like, "Hey, do you want drugs, supplements?" And then it was like, okay. And then right after that, it was a whole different bag, a whole different vibe.
Oh yeah.
So was that intentional?
Yeah. So like we had these songs, and then we was like, these songs, some of them like they're just like so different than the others, and we were just planning on doing skits anyway. So we was like, okay, these songs would be good to break up. So I don't know if y'all remember the story thing in school. It was called the hero's journey.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So like
exposition and all that.
Yeah,
good
yeah.
stuff.
So like Call to Adventure or so like I use some of the more prominent ones that I remember. So like Supernatural Aid, Call to Adventure, Return of the Elixir, all these steps to the hero's journey. The stuff that they teach you in high school when you're talking about Shakespeare and stuff like that. So but yeah, so like after that, then you go up into like my alter ego. So that's how you got like Jagger James, which is like a play off of Mick Jagger, or Elon James is a play off of Elon Musk. But it's like my versions of these things. So yeah.
And that third act, Season of Sword, when I listened to those last 3 songs, no, actually it's 2 songs. It's Return with Elixir. But I kind of feel like that towards the end of the album, you're thinking about your legacy.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought that was mad. That was just mad dope. How you just kind of alter ego. You got the your hero's journey, and then you got your getting into your alter ego, and then you coming back to reality. Like, all right, I gotta think about my legacy. And I just like I said, I just really think that's dope. And I'm wondering, are you pulling all that from poetry? Like creating doing that storytelling.
Yeah, I think it all started from poetry and telling stories. So I like to tell stories. That's why some of the stuff is still poetic, and I think I got that. Yeah, I was able to sharpen that skill before I was even doing music, and now I get to do it in this kind of way. But one of my favorite artists is Kendrick Lamar, and so like
I can tell
sometimes I had to be like, because he does a really good job with the storytelling and the skits. And then, so I think there's 2 kind of albums. So when I was making this, it was like, yo, I could just make a dope album and all these songs would be fire, or I could tell a story. And so sometimes I feel like I'm pressured to tell a story because that's what I like. But I think it kind of worked out this way. It didn't feel like I think Kendrick Lamar put a lot of pressure on people with his albums, because he always does the skits or the storytelling, and at first I felt like I was doing it because I was like, oh, he's doing it, and not to be like him, but like I was inspired to do it, and now it's also my thing. It's okay for it to also be my thing, and we do it differently. So, but yeah,
no, absolutely. Now I don't know if you want to go ahead and get into some records now, but I think we should. So, what is a song that you want the people to hear that may not have heard the project yet that they should get introduced to right away?
I would say WR 4R Will Rap for Rent is probably the most, I won't say polarizing, but the most song on here.
Yeah, let's play that, because I have a quick question about that, because there's a theme that I've heard through the whole entire record here. So I want to definitely go ahead and play that, and let's get into that.
And I'm glad I heard that after we had the Share the Vibes discussion.
It's a cycle. Just know I'm liable to go Michael on the haiku. Until it's global, then we tribal. They couldn't stop me, but they tried to. 2025, I'll be a tycoon. On a cruise ship, eating Thai food. And I own Amazon, Netflix, and Hulu. XG's, Yahoo, and Google. And YouTube. Wait, too soon?
Back to XG.
I make a living off art, and that's a fact. You ain't got the budget, don't bother to hit me back. Palm keep itching, I think it's 100 racks. Exposure won't work, can't pay my rent with that. I make a living.
Yes, sir. So, yeah. Devin, go ahead. What you got?
Yeah. Give us how that came to be.
Yeah.
So I was playing this show. Y'all ever heard of So Far Sounds?
So far,
It's a dope organization. They throw these private, intimate concerts. As an audience member, you don't know who's playing. You don't know what genre. You also don't know where the show is until 36 hours before the show.
Oh, that's dope. There's something in L.A.?
It's all around. It's in 400 cities around the world. It
dope.
started in London.
Oh.
There's one in Milwaukee. It's a smaller chapter in Milwaukee.
Okay.
But I was doing one of them in LA, and It was at this spot that had like these different like studios, so workshop. Like a yoga place, and then one of the guys' spaces was a studio. So he was watching the show, and then he was like, "Oh man, I dig your sound. We should link." And so I came back to the space and worked with him, and that's my homie now. So he's his name is Goze. You can hear it in the record. He produced this, and then I'm on his album. He got coming out pretty soon. We're gonna probably do an EP together, but we got a bunch of songs that like are in this pocket that I think is a dope sound. But that's how that this song came together. And then he was gonna put this on his album, which I still think he is. But I was nervous about asking. I was like, man, I don't know if I should ask him because I know we made this kind of with the intent to be on his album. But the more and more I listened and played it live before the album came out, I was like, this got to be on my album. So I hit him up and I was like, yo, you could say no, but feel free to say yeah. And he was like, oh yeah, they could just go on both. And then it turned into the lead single, and then, so.
It's that guitar for me. That's that.
On in that yell, we did it in the middle of the song, and then he placed it right in the beginning, and then throughout the song too, and I think that helps make it too, because you listen, the first thing you hear, and like that's like some NERD Gorillaz type stuff. Yeah. So I think that even that little small adjustment made the song super fire too.
I thought somebody had pissed you off and like tried to underbid you or something. Like,
hey man,
no. What's funny is that since I've been in Milwaukee, no one has asked me to do anything for free, which is dope. Sometimes budgets or whatever, we can negotiate and talk about that. But I realized I've been playing this song for a year, so like after you hear this song and me play it, I don't know why you would ask me to do something for free. But
man, I heard your song, but
another guy came up to me. He was like, I don't know if you think about this, but like, because I have people say it back with me at shows and stuff. He's like, you kind of having us all say this affirmation together under this roof. Like we're like manifesting this for ourselves. And I was like, dope. I didn't think about it like that. It was just more so, this is where I am in my life right now. So this is my reality.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And DIY is like throughout. That's the thing I was talking about earlier. Like it's throughout the whole entire album. Like I'm doing this myself, and it now knowing when you did your first project, when you started paying for it, it's like it seemed like it always go back to that very first moment of, hey, I put my hard-earned money into this. I put my own. I mean, even with and I want to conflate two albums together, but I'm just thinking about with Killer Mike when he said he spent like $250,000 on his album, and you could tell, and I could tell that you put the time and effort in the money and the blood and sweat into this album because this is the quality that you get. Yeah. So man, it's dope. What you want to hear next?
There's something more smooth. We could do Grateful.
Oh, I love the radio background.
Black gold, baby, no wonder they tryna murder us. Black gat tuck for the shit they pulled in Ferguson. Land of the free my ass, we should desert this bitch. For even thinking it's sweet, deserting shit. Lord knows I ain't perfect, I done cheated. I convinced the ass to stay when I know she should be leaving. I done met my better half and then tore them into pieces. I done lied for no reason, now I'm facing all my demons. If I said I'ma do it, then I ain't lying. It's Phantom of the chakras and everything's in alignment. I'm here for a purpose, I understand the assignment. Cause when it's said and done, gratitude gon' be vital.
All the darkness in the world will not pull me from the past. I just follow his hand. I'm just grateful that today is giving me a second chance to be a better man. Oh.
You don't know why if I never make it, I feel I won already. You don't know my fam on my back. Ain't the weight is heavy.
Grateful. That's my word of the year. That's like my whole word for. It's like my theme of this year.
Yeah.
Of just being grateful, man, for every little opportunity, every little door that got closed, every little whatever. And then this kind of sealed the stamp on it, like grateful for a second chance, another chance. That's dope. How did this record come about?
So this record samples a record off my last album. So on my last album, Avery, which is named after my late grandmother, Vicky and Avery, the last song is called Thankful. So the first part you get is we sampled Thankful, and they made Grateful. So yeah,
That's dope. That's.
And this is one of the records we made in the house.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. No, that's dope. That's dope, man. That's a really. This one of my. This like I can tell like this is the cherry on top. It's like this seals everything up, and because you even said it yourself, I got one more thing to say.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then boom, and then I'm grateful.
And it's funny because, like I said, I was cooking, so I wasn't really looking at the track list as I was listening, and the skit came on, and I think you had said, all right, so yeah, I think we're done or something like that. I'm like, really? Like, no, we ain't done yet. Like I'm still into it. I'm still into it. What's funny, I think I really had onions in the skillet right then. But then you say, no, it's not done yet. I got one more thing to say. And then this came out. I was like, man, like what a way to just round out this project. We started out, talking about we got to save the world and, hey, I work for rent. I rap for rent. They pay me. I don't do this for free. But we ended out with, I'm grateful for like all these blessings and everything that's going on. And I ain't always been perfect. Like you said, some real stuff in there that I think a lot of people can relate to. So, great conclusion to the album. Is the denouement the conclusion or is that the beginning? Going back to those literary terms. The denouement. Is that the beginning or the end?
That's a good question.
I think the denouement was the beginning. Conclusion was the end. Nonetheless, great ending to the project.
Yeah.
For sure.
Let's give him. Can we give him one more? You got time for one more?
Yeah.
Okay, which one you can go to? I'm curious.
We can do Elon.
Yes.
Now when I walk up in the spot looking extra fly, God been hella good, might I testify? Mic check 1 2, testify. Been ahead of the curve, I got that Tesla drive. When I walk up in the spot looking extra fly, God been hella good, might I testify? Mic check 1 2, testify. Been ahead of the curve, I got that Tesla drive. Wake up in the morning and throwing some off. I'm burning sage, ignoring calls, I'm busy recording. I mean, they'll call back if it's really important. They pushing P, I'm moving product, I'm really important. I'm trying to make 100 bands in the next 12. You can say it, but to make it, you gon' have to plan well. Move 4K, let the profit be 25. And that's how you make 100K DIY. Yeah, you hear that? I drop the bomb on them. When my enemies flare up, I go to God on them. Anything else is gas, I got 5 on it. I'm ahead of them still, they just time zoning. But who am I to talk down? Really, we all God's child. Either way, we not the same. I don't even work now. Sorta like you at the gym, you don't even work out. And that's a feel, y'all. But that's none of my business. Cause when I walk up in the spot, looking extra fly.
It's one of my favorite genres of rap is boom bap. I love East Coast rap, like back in the 90s when they take, sometimes take jazz and then, or flip it. Or even now with Griselda and Benny the Butcher and all them, West Side Gun and all them cats. Like, and those even like, when I try to make beats, sometimes I'm like, I just want to make a boom bap beat because I just love the jazz and the hip hop. And that sax come on, I'm just like, man, you snap, dog. You snap. So talk about Elon James.
So Elon James is produced by my homie Matt Alsowski, one of my college homies. He works on this podcast with y'all know Prof, the rapper.
I've heard that name.
Poet. So he produces a podcast for him. He like scores it and stuff. And so he made some beats for like the podcast. And then he was like showing me beats. And he was like, if you ever want to rap on any of these. So this is when he sent me, and I was like, oh, this is dope. And then I slowly wrote to it. And then the saxophone is played by my other friend, which is his fiance, Katie. She plays sax. And then our other friend, Tate, he, I don't know if they got rid of the program drums or they dubbed them with, he played live drums on the song too. So to just beef it up a little bit. But yeah, that's how that song came about.
Now, did y'all record all of those different pieces live? Like somebody's on the keys, the sax, the drums. Like, was that a live session?
So Matt had already made the beat.
Okay.
So he played the keys and stuff, but the drums was played in Minneapolis. Our homie Tate lives in Minneapolis. He had a studio.
Okay.
So he sent the drums to Matt. Matt mixed them in, and then Katie, she played live sax over it. So a lot of this album it's not completely live. It's still programmed stuff, but there's a lot of live instrumentation on the album.
No, that's dope, man. This is dope.
The vibe, you just feel that vibe. When you hear live instrumentation, you just feel the vibe. Like it just.
Yeah, I was kind of like floating through the song. It's like so I was in the band too, so like I know how to read music and everything. Now don't tell me to sight read and play something; it's gonna be rough. But I was a percussionist, but I can tell you what the notes are. But it's like I was kind of like I just kind of saw myself like a sea of blue and purple or something. I just kind of swimming through the measures, through the bars.
Yeah.
No, that was a vibe, man. No, I absolutely love this project. And if I wasn't excited to have you headlining Share the Vibes Fest, I definitely am. After hearing this, and I got to get into some of your other projects too. Cause I just saw Jazz Cavities, and I got to see what that's all about. Appreciate you coming through and letting us get into your art and walking us through your process. So like this last song, Elon James, your producer, he sent you the beat and you started writing to it. Is that your usual process, or what's your normal creative process?
Yeah, so that happens. My favorite way to work on music is together. Mm-hmm. So like the song 10 in a Row, me and my homie, we made together. Like he pressed all the buttons, but I was in the room saying like, we should add this drop, or it'd be dope if we did this. So like I can work both ways. Somebody could send me a beat that I think is dope and I record over it. But my favorite, which is why part of the reason why I wanted to do the album retreat that we did, because we could be in the room. I was in the room. So I was in the room where Jagger James was made. So we had two sections, a producer section, and then once the song was kind of done, I went to another room, and then I started tracking vocals while they're working on the next song. So like Jagger James, Thankful, DIY, and 1,000 Words were made at this house, or like I was in the room when the beats was being made.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So that's so dope. It's like vibe bouncing off each other. Like, oh yeah, let me add this. Let me put that in there. Let me do that. That sounds like be a fly on the wall.
Yeah,
that sounds great.
It sounds like in general you get the music first, even if it's like you creating the beat and the music first, and then writing to it, or you receive it. But it sounds like you hear the music, and then you put the words to it.
Yeah, 90% of the time I get the music first. Every once in a while I might get a title.
Okay.
And then I'll make music based off the title. But that rarely happens, but it's usually the music first. So yeah.
No, that's all right, man. So I know we've been on here a little while. We got to start wrapping this up, but I probably should have said this earlier in the show, but I was more focused on you and your story, so I got to be intentional about my marketing side sometimes. But Emmitt James is the Share the Vibes Fest 2023 headliner. We're super excited to have you be with us. Talk to us about just getting ready for Share the Vibes Fest, the little bit that you do know about us and what we do, and just kind of what you're looking forward to the most, or you're not looking forward to it at all, you're just doing it. No, just kind of what your thoughts as we get ready for the festival.
I mean, this, just like you listening to the project, like, oh, now I'm a little bit more excited because I listen to the music. Now I know a little bit more about him. I know a little bit more about, well, I know what you look like now. And so knowing just a little bit more about you both, I'm looking forward to it. I looked at the thing that you sent me too, kind of like just the program and what stuff that's going on. So I'm very curious to see like how it's all going to play out. As an event producer as well, like I'm curious to see. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And you probably remember this. Is this the second one?
Yes, the second one. Yep.
So you reached out to me with the first one.
Yep, I remember.
But I was still living in LA at the time, so it didn't really work out. Or didn't make that much sense to do it then. But now because I remember when you hit me up, I was like, I know this name. So I typed it in. I was like, oh, okay. So it's like a full circle moment.
Absolutely.
So, no, I'm definitely looking forward.
Yeah, when it came up, I said, you know what? I was like, I remember Emmitt. So yeah, I reached out to him last year, but I'm pretty sure he was in LA. It didn't work out. It didn't make sense. But it gave us a chance to circle back to it. So I say, I think that's confirmation. Like we got something we got to do here. So glad to have you coming, man. If you're listening, you haven't got your tickets yet, hey, share the vibes, LLC.com/STV Fest. Get your tickets, get that Share the Vibes so you can get your cup and get your Afro Chart subscription and really get the full experience. But either way, we hope to see you all at Miramar Theater July 22nd, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's going down. 1J will be leading us through an engaging workshop to kick off the day, amplifying your brand through podcasting. So definitely come out for that at noon. We'll have some vendors there. We're getting some food lined up. We're going to have drinks on deck, and it's going to be a good day. If you came last year, you already know it's going to be a vibe. The artist lineup is pretty much finalized today. I locked in like my last 2 artists today. So be on the lookout for more announcements to come. We're going to really get the promo going so you can see what's going on with the elements of the festival. I'm excited about it. But 1J, anything you want to share about Share the Vibes Fest, man, as we're getting ready for it?
Man, if you were last year, it was just real dope, real great family experience. We're gonna excited to have the media room again, where people just come in, just have conversation, talk to us about share the vibes and just what are you expecting out of the. I think it kind of reminded me of like the what was it called, like Heat on the Street, Beat on the Street or something like that. Where back in the day, like if it was like a award show, they'll have somebody just walking around the street, or a 106 in Park has somebody walk around the street and like talk to folks and say, this time is you're actually coming into the actual event and you're sitting down having it. It's like everybody can come to a red carpet, like that, and everybody get an interview. So that's what I love about that, and it's just kind of that real dope experience. I'm excited for the patron engagement that we have, the fan engagement that we have, where you guys are really gonna participate and get teams and groups, and it's really going to be dope, man. Y'all going to have a real great time. It's going to be very interactive, very fun. And like I said, these artists that are lined up, like, you don't want to miss it. Like, come out and support and really share some vibes, man. Share some vibes. We want to know what you be keeping in your Serato.
No, it's going to be dope, man. So, we'll be doing Share the Vibes podcast live during the festival as well. So we're going to talk about artificial intelligence and the future of music, because remember, it is about connecting people through music and technology. So we're going to always bring those aspects in, and we got a dope lineup for that. So hey, get your tickets. I'm excited to have you. If for nothing else, you just heard this dope music from Emmitt James. Definitely going to bless the stage with us, and there's more artists coming with dope vibes too. So pull up. We'll see you there July 22nd for Share the Vibes Fest. But before we leave, Emmitt, how can people connect with you and stay engaged with you?
You can't. No, I'm just EmmittJames.com. The best way I would say is on Instagram, Emmitt James, so EMMITT_James, and that's a good way to hear about events, music, other content stuff. So yeah, on Instagram.
There it is. Check the description. It's linked down there. We got the website and how to find Emmitt in the description. 1J, any last words before we close?
Man, make sure if you are listening to this episode, it's your first time listening to Share the Vibes podcast, make sure you listen to all the other episodes. Definitely go back. And if you already listened to the other episodes, listen to them again. Why not? Make sure you also do a 5-star rating and review. That's how we get ranked in the charts as well, too. So if you love listening to Share the Vibes and you want to just leave us a comment, make sure you do that. Share, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Go to the YouTube page, watch the interviews. And yeah, we appreciate y'all, man.
Yes, sir. Emmitt, any last words from you?
That was it.
I thought you were going to say I made love too much.
I appreciate you guys for having me. Thank you.
Thanks for coming through, man. We appreciate you.
No, thank y'all for listening, man. As we get ready for Share the Vibes Fest, if you've been rocking with us from the beginning, you know the first 8 episodes, if I'm not mistaken, were recorded at the festival last year. So I encourage all of you, go back to the beginning, listen to the live podcast show from last year. My 1J was drunk on his birthday. We ain't going to talk about it. We go to the live podcast show from last year. But also listen to those other conversations. We talked to artists after they performed. We talked to people who attended the festival. You get to hear it in the background so you can kind of relive it. I just did it last week, and it took me back to that place. I really needed to get that, really get amped up again for this year. So excited to have you all. Thank you for listening. Once again, I am Jink the DJ. Make sure you follow us on IG, Share the Vibes LLC, join our Facebook group. Click that link in the description. Connect with us across our website, our podcast, our radio show, all our platforms, and keep sharing the vibes with us. Until next time, stay safe, stay blessed, keep sharing the vibes. Peace.
Peace.